to Audacity.
Test. Testosterone. Hey everybody, and welcome to a brand new series on the channel I want to name Childhood Traumas. It's a show about my childhood fears and experiences. I wanted to try and make this because I've been very much into horror for like most of my life, and because like 10 to 12 years ago I used to be a giant pussy, and I want to make fun of that. And yes, this is what I do look like. I kind of wanted to try something new. Now don't worry, the facecam videos aren't some new revolutionary thing. I still will be doing the horror narrations all the time, don't worry about that. I just think that type of content is a little bit too easy to make, and I kind of want to challenge myself with a bigger topic. So on to the current topic, which I guess you've all gathered from the title, is creepypastas. I used to fucking love these as a kid, back in like 2012, 2013, and I still do. I mean, I've literally almost listened to every single episode of the Mr. Creepypasta Storytime podcast, and I mean that very literally. I really hope you can't hear the guy like mowing his lawn outside. Can you stop? As soon as I try to record a new type of video that something like this happens, the next thing I know, there's about to be an airplane flying over my house. So the way I'm going to make this video work is by splitting this video up into segments. So for example, I'll talk about one creepypasta and then some memories of me being scared by it, and we'll see how it turns out. Number 1. So at number 1, we've got Jeff the Killer. All of you know about this goddamn story. I think like 90% of the people who have touched the internet, except for like iPad kids, know this story by now, but when I was about 12 years old, this story made me absolutely shit my pants. The story is about a boy named Jeff, who is normal, and his brother Lou, who is also normal. And fun fact, actually back in the day, I used to have this terrible emo hairstyle, and people would comment on my old, like really old videos with my face in them, and they would tell me that I looked like Jeff the Killer before he actually got burned and shit. So I don't know if I should take that as a compliment or not. I hope I don't look like that still. Please don't tell me I actually look like that. That would actually hurt my feelings. So just, I don't know, make that a meme in the comments. Fucking make me insecure about my appearance. Thank you. Anyway, Jeff beats up some bullies that try to steal his and his brother's money, and he literally stabs one of them. Jesus Christ, the author got me thinking Jeff lives in the fucking UK or something. Anyway, Lou gets put into a juvenile detention facility because he takes the blame for the whole stabbing and beating up the bullies incident, and that makes Jeff sad. Jeff ends up having to go to a birthday party of this kid that's his neighbor called Billy. Every time there's a kid in any story ever, his name is fucking Billy. Jeff goes to the party where he plays cowboys and Indians with some kids until the bullies show up on their skateboards. And all of them straight up fucking ollie over like a huge fence. Which was crazy to me back in the day. I mean, I do skateboard every so often. I mean, look at this. Look at this beautiful skateboard deck I have. Zero for life? Actually, no. I skate Dark Star now. Yeah, fun fact about Max. He skateboards sometimes. Skater boy. I even won this GoPro at like a competition back in the day, and I'm getting sidetracked. A fight breaks out at the birthday party, and Jeff straight up fucking murders every single one of the bullies until he has to fight the final bully. And the bully just lights Jeff on fire before Jeff kills him. Like, I guess strong adults don't exist in this universe. Like, imagine you're at a birthday party and you see like these kids that are like 13 years old, and they just start fucking fighting and they're actually killing each other. And you as a grown adult just stand there and be like, You should throw more jabs. Keep your hands up. Jeff then wakes up at the hospital and his family sees his face. He's very burnt and shit, some nice body horror and all that. Jeff is cleared to go home and the family enjoys the rest of their day. During the night, Jeff goes into the bathroom and carves a smile into his face, Joker style, and burns off his eyelids so he can, quote, forever see his face. I mean, that's fucking traumatizing for a child to hear. His mom comes into the room and her first instinct is to try and get Jeff's father to shoot him. Yeah, that's actually in the story. Actually, I think I'll just read what the mom says right now. "Yes, son," she said. "Yes, you are. Let me go get Daddy so he can see your face." She ran into the room and shook Jeff's dad from his sleep. "Honey, get the gun. I mean, seriously. Yes, my son is mentally ill and is disfiguring himself in the bathroom at 3 a.m. We have to put him down. Fuck the mental hospital or the doctors. Kill this son of a... Jeff proceeds to kill his entire family and all that, and that was Jeff the Killer. What scared me a lot about this story when I was younger was like this little prologue thing at the start of the story, where there's like this kid who wakes up in the middle of the night and survives an encounter with Jeff. Honestly, that's the best part of the fucking story, and I'll just read that to you actually right now. After weeks of unexplained murders, the ominous unknown killer is still on the rise. After little evidence has been found, a young boy states that he survived one of the killer's attacks and bravely tells his story. I had a bad dream, and I woke up in the middle of the night, says the boy. I saw that for some reason the window was open, even though I remember it being closed before I went to bed. I got up and shed it once more. Afterwards, I simply crawled under my covers and tried to get back to sleep. That's when I had a strange feeling, like someone was watching me. I looked up and nearly jumped out of my bed. There, in the little ray of light illuminating from between my curtains, were a pair of two eyes. These weren't regular eyes, they were dark, ominous eyes. They were bordered in black and just plain out terrified me. That's when I saw his mouth, a long, horrendous smile that made every hair on my body stand up. The figure stood there, watching me. Finally, after what seemed like forever, he said it. A simple phrase, but said in a way that only a madman could speak. He said, "Go to sleep." I let out a scream. That's what sent him at me. He pulled up a knife, aiming at my heart. He jumped on top of my bed. I fought him back. I kicked. I punched. I rolled around, trying to knock him off of me. That's when my dad busted in. The man threw the knife. It went into my dad's shoulder. The man probably would have finished him off if one of the neighbors hadn't alerted the police. Yeah, I read that way too fast. What used to scare me to death when I was a kid was how Jeff is on the ceiling in my imagination. That mental image spawned a genuine fear within me that is still here to this day. I'm so terrified of shit watching me from the ceiling. Like, if I'm scared, I'll always look up and like this to try and spot something. I have no idea why that sparked such a massive fear in me. I also really remember being scared of the part where he kills his whole family, but I just think I was young at that point. Overall, the story today doesn't scare me at all. I mean, reading it back kinda reveals how bad and honestly cringe it truly was, but I'm still truly grateful for how terrified it made me in the past. So Jeff the Killer gets a 4 out of 10 in the scare department and a 9 out of 10 in the iconic department. The character if you haven't heard the story, go check it out. It's cringe as fuck, and it's probably gonna give you a big laugh. So, yeah, on to the next one. Number 2. Now, number 2 is going to go comfortably to this one story I heard back when I was staying at my grandparents' house. The sad part about this section of the video, and one other section later on, is that I literally couldn't find the story anywhere I looked online. I looked for it for ages, and I just can't find it. But it's about this kid who moves into a new neighborhood and makes a friend, and they get along great. And their parents suggest that the kid has a sleepover over at his friend's house. I think the friend lives in like a really old, large house or something like that, and the way the author describes it is really good in my memory. Anyway, the two friends hang around the house for the whole day, and everything is great until they have to go to bed. The protagonist goes to sleep and wakes up in the middle of the night to this haunting, hairless creature at the foot of his bed that like comes up to him and looks at him or something, and I don't know if I'm making this part up or something. I think like the creature hears the mom like kind of wake up in the middle of the night, and it like stumbles and bumps into things on the way out of the room, which I don't know why that part of the story is so memorable, say it. Marmol. But like, I think it just deals with the fear that kids have of like things going bump in the night. Like, I think I imagined it as like the creature bumping into shit while trying to find me. I don't know, it just scared me fucking shitless when I was a kid. The protagonist tells his parents about the whole thing, only for them to brush it off as a nightmare, which he eventually believes himself. And time flies by and the friends decide to sleep over again. The creature makes its second appearance, and I can't quite remember the rest of the story, which is a terrible shame, because in my memory, it's actually really fucking good. This one literally scared my 13-year-old self so badly that I was afraid of just visiting my friends' houses, let alone sleeping in them. Also, the fact that I was sleeping over at my grandparents while I heard this story for the first time made it so much scarier as well. I was able to generate such a vivid image of the house thoughts and everything like that in my mind. I remember this one night I couldn't get this story out of my head, and I looked at this grandfather clock that my grandparents had. And it was like 1 a.m. and the ticking sound started scaring me so bad, even though the story had nothing to do with clocks or anything like that. The atmosphere was just amazing. Like, not in the moment. In the moment, I was genuinely afraid for my life, but I mean, many nights were spent drenched in sweat and anxiety because of this story, but I loved every single second of it. Great story, great premise, 8 out of 10 in the scare department, 3 out of 10 in the iconic department. If any of you think you know what the story is called or remember it too, please post it down in the comments. I would absolutely love to hear your take on it, or just to listen to it again. I think it was narrated by either Mr. Creepypasta or Creeps McPasta, if that helps the search at all. I personally couldn't find it, but I know that I suck at looking for things online. So if any of you can find it, or if any of you know where it is, please post it down in the comments. I would fucking heart that shit, pin it, whatever you want, okay? Shout out, I'll shout you out in the next one if you find any of these stories. To my 91 subscribers. Number 3 has got to go to Laughing Jack. Laughing Jack is an iconic creepypasta that I think a lot of you will have heard if you've spent any time whatsoever in the whole 2012 creepypasta craze that was going on at the time. The story goes a little bit something like this. A single mom has a kid named James, who is described as being a quiet kid. One day, the mom hears James talking to someone in their backyard. She thinks he's made a friend and goes to the backyard to check on him, only to find out that he's the only person in the yard. During dinner, the mother asks James who he was talking to which James responds, "I was just talking to a friend." The mom asks James what his new friend's name is, and James says it's Laughing Jack. She then asks James what Laughing Jack looks like, and he tells her he's a clown with long hair and a swirly cone nose who always smiles, and the mother takes this as just an imaginary friend. Because of course she does. She puts James to bed and goes to bed herself, only to have an awful nightmare where she's stuck in a black and white amusement park. She hears Pop Goes the Weasel play, and just before the climax of the song, it suddenly stops, and she finds herself staring at a bunch of horribly disfigured children that proceed to tear her apart very violently, while an evil laugh is heard in the background. Wow. I'm just now realizing that this was definitely not the type of shit I should have been listening to when I was like 8 years old. I mean, holy shit, no wonder this story made me shit myself dry. Anyway, the mother wakes up in the morning to find some of James's action figures all facing her on her nightstand. She goes into the room to check on him, only to find him asleep. Later that day, she confronts James about this, only for him to tell her that Laughing Jack did it, to which she responds, "Tell Laughing Jack to keep the toys in your room," to which James nods. Our protagonist goes to relax and ends up dozing off for about 2 hours and wakes up in a panic. She runs outside to find James eating a handful of candy and freaks out, asking who gave James the candy. James looks up at her with tears in his eyes and tells her that Laughing Jack gave it to him. She makes him spit out the candy and throws the rest away. The rest of the day goes by and James is sent to bed by the mother, and the mother decides to go to bed as well. She's woken up by a loud banging coming from the kitchen, and when she gets there, she sees that their dog, Fido, has been gutted and stuffed with the same candy James was eating. Just then, she hears James screaming from his room, and when she gets to the room, it's a mess, and James is sitting in a pool of his own urine. She takes James and goes over to a neighbor's house to call the police, who come to the house and do nothing. As always. Like, I know the story is getting good here, but I'm serious right now. I absolutely hate in horror movies or horror stories in general when the police show up and basically say, must have been the wind. And then just let the family keep staying in the house like the dog wasn't fucking gutted like a fish and stuffed with candy. Are you serious? Yes, very safe indeed. I swear this takes me out of stories every single time. Please stop writing shit like this in stories. I'll forgive this because this fucking story is 11 years old. But damn, bro. Regardless, the mother goes to bed, but before that, she places a baby monitor in James's room. Just as she's about to fall asleep, she starts hearing a weird noise coming from the baby monitor that eventually turns into laughter. The same laughter she heard in the carnival nightmare. She runs into James's room only to find him gutted and nailed to a wall, Jesus Christ style. That was insensitive. I'm not gonna cut that out though. Here's the quote from the actual story. James's body was nailed up on the wall, the nails piercing through his hands and feet. His chest was cut wide open, and his organs hung down to the floor. His eyes and tongue had been removed, along with most of his teeth. That's insane. The mother runs across the room and ends up throwing up, only to see Laughing Jack emerge from the shadows. He walks up... Wow. He walks up to James, or what's left of him, and starts laughing at the poor boy. This leads to the mother trying to stab Laughing Jack, who disappears, and she ends up stabbing James. She is of course blamed for the whole incident, and the story ends with her describing how someone keeps playing Pop Goes the Weasel by the window of her room at the insane asylum at night, and that she'll talk about it to the orderlies in the morning. That is fucking dark. I remember the first time I heard this story like it was fucking yesterday. I remember it so well because it was shortly after the school I was at started using like iPads for schoolwork, and I used to listen to stories on that iPad constantly during class. I remember hearing this narrated by Mr. Creepypasta, and damn does that man do it justice, even 11 years later. I sat there in class, literally scared shitless by this story, and I couldn't sleep for like 3 days straight afterwards. I also think this story was actually the catalyst for my childhood fear of clowns. Like, I could not watch or see anything with a clown in it for a long ass fucking time after I heard this story. You know when you were a kid and you were taking a shower while home alone or with the door closed, and you were scared to wash your hair because you had to close your eyes and you were afraid something was like gonna pop out and attack you? Yeah, that was Laughing Jack in my case. I literally couldn't close my eyes in the shower because I was afraid of this fictional character gutting me in the split second while I did it. I have this very vivid memory from like a long time ago where I'm laying in bed and everyone has already gone to bed, and I'm looking through my open door like into the living room, and I can't get Pop Goes the Weasel to just get the fuck out of my head, and that's just something I really didn't need at that time. Like, thanks brain, thanks for playing the shit that gets me fucking terrified. And I remember constantly getting up and turning on the living room light, only for my dad to be woken up by it and turning it back off and going to bed, which just plunged me back into darkness, and it just made it all the more worse. Because I was constantly getting like this safety blanket of light, and then it would be like removed like a couple minutes later, and I did that like 5 times, and then my dad came into the room and like chewed me out for it. It's fucking awful. That night was absolutely one of the best and worst experiences of my life. I was also just really scared by the character design. It's genuinely fucking terrifying. I think this story also holds up way better than most of the stories on this list. Aside from them, you know, sleeping in their own house after the dog was just fucking gutted and hung from the ceiling, but, you know, it's absolutely great. But in all seriousness, it's not a waste of a spare 17 minutes if you want a good old-fashioned horror story. Overall, amazing story, made young Max shit himself more than usual. So with that out of the way, Laughing Jack gets an 8 out of 10 in the scared department, and another 8 out of 10 in the iconic department. I mean, look at this fuck. Absolute masterpiece. Number 4. Now number 4 has to go to another story I can't find anywhere that I heard when I was young. I remember that the main character's name was Joshua, and the story starts with him laying in bed trying to sleep when he hears a little girl's voice coming from his closet. He sits up in bed and is utterly confused by the voice of the girl in the closet, who says she's stuck and he has to come open the door for her. Joshua is understandably skeptical of the voice that just gets angrier and angrier, asking to be let out of the closet, and I think he ends up sleeping in his parents' bed afterwards or something like that. The story continues with him recalling events from his childhood where the voice keeps appearing outside of closed doors, begging to be let in. There's this one part of the story I remember very vividly where Joshua's in a bathroom stall at school or something, and the voice starts knocking on the stall door asking to be let in, and he peeks under the stall and he gets to see how terrifying the monster is. And what makes it all better is that like the monster actually notices that he's peeking under the bathroom stall door, and it says something like, "I'll get you, boy, even if it takes me 100 years. And I remember how that line actually sent shivers down my spine. The story ends with a present-day Joshua. He's removed every single door in his house except for the front door and contemplates letting the creature in before the story ends. This story scared me so bad that I could not close the bathroom door or go into a bathroom stall for months after I heard it. It got so bad that my mom actually had to convince me to listen to it again and again to try and get me to realize that this shit isn't that serious. By the way, I love you, Mom. Thank you so much for helping me through that whole phase and making me a braver person. I do not know where I would be without you. Now regardless, I also have this one memory related to this story from when I was young, where my dad was snoring really loud in the next room and I was awake in the other room with this story burned into my brain. And I remember that I really wanted to go close the door to get away from the loud ass snoring, but I couldn't because then the door ghost would come and knock on it and everyone would think I'm mentally ill, and that just made me even more scared. So I just ended up staying awake the whole night listening to snoring and being scared shitless. Also, I don't really know why I used to enjoy scaring myself this bad when I was younger. I really must have been like an emotional masochist or something like that. Like, who enjoys being scared this much as a child? I really hope you guys did too, so I'm not like this one really weird guy who just loved being traumatized as a child. There's also this one very specific memory that I remember very well, where I'm at my friend's birthday party and I really have to go to the bathroom, and because I'm at someone else's house, I have to like close the door and I do my business and all that, and I'm washing my hands, and apparently my friends went to look for me and they knock on the door, and I remember this fucking sinking feeling in my stomach, like it was like a genuine boom like in my chest, right? And I started sweating so bad, and I literally start to have like a mini panic attack on the bathroom floor before I hear my friend's voice coming from the other side asking if I was in there. And the relief that it wasn't like a female ghost voice was so great. I swear I nearly fainted. Anyway, a great story, very traumatizing, kind of a basic premise, but in my memory it's absolutely a fantastic story with a great ending, actually. I remember I really liked how it ended. 9 out of 10 in the scare department, 3 out of 10 in the iconic department because I couldn't find it. And like I said for the last story I didn't remember, if you recognize any of these stories that I can't personally remember in this video, please let me know in the comments, and if you know what they're called, please let me know that as well. I would love to listen to these again. And also, like I said in the beginning of the video, shoutouts to anyone that can actually find these stories. You'll get on a YouTube channel with 91 subscribers. Number 5, and last but not least, we have the one, the only, Slender Man. And I'm not just talking about a specific story here, I mean everything Slender Man. The stories, the games, the awful top 10 Slender Man sightings in real life videos, the whole set. I have so many memories of being scared to death by this creature, I don't even know where to start. I think my first encounter with the Slender Man was when I saw PewDiePie play Slender's Woods for the first time 11 years ago. That shit was so awesome. I downloaded that game and got a virus onto my mom's PC, and I got grilled for that. I also have loads of memories of like normal pieces of clothing on coat hangers scaring the shit out of me because I thought they were Slender Man. I mean, the character's design is so fucking genius. Just take a tall man and remove his face. Bang! Instant scary. This one memory sticks out as well, where I'm laying in bed and I had this hoodie hung up on the side of my closet door, and I had the door to my room open, and the light from the clock on the fridge kind of like flooded into the room, and it gave the room like this blue hue. It was absolutely terrifying, by the way. And I thought the hoodie was Slender Man, and what like confirmed that it was Slender Man in my mind was the fact that when I looked at the hoodie, I was like convinced that there was static in the corner of my eye, and bro, the fear that I felt in those moments has been unrivaled by any real horrifying thing I've ever experienced since. I also remember hearing this one Slender Man story where the author claims that the more you know about Slender Man, the more of a target you're likely to become. And I literally cleared my search history because of that video. Because, like, my entire search history was along the lines of, like, top 10 Slender Man facts you didn't want to know, or top 10 Slender Man sightings 2013, or some shit like that. And looking back on those memories, those are absolutely priceless. I feel like all of these experiences are like the orbs in the movie Inside Out. You know how the blue sad one starts corrupting all of the memory orbs, and then at the end, the sad one and the happy one kind of mix? Except I feel like it would be a bunch of the purple orbs, because like the purple one is the fear, and then like it's being corrupted by the happy one. Like I think most of my horror memories are kind of like that, if that makes any sense at all. But again, more memories. So I remember back like 9 years ago, I made this terrible hide and seek game with a couple of my friends that was like Slender Man based. And I remember the rules of the game were so stupid. So basically one of us would be the Slender Man, right? And the other players had to create like notes, like the can't run note or the no eyes note from the games, and place them near the hiding place they were at to give like a general sense of where everyone is. And when the hiding player is found, the Slender Man has to grab them and stare at their face for 5 seconds. That isn't really scary when, you know, it's just a face, like it's just your friend's face trying to stare into your eyes for 5 seconds. It was genuinely an awful idea to like kill them, right? Running away from the Slender Man was also a viable option, like something you could do. The game didn't just end after you were found. The amount of arguments this game spawned are countless. The amount of times people would count 5 seconds wrong and be mad because they were found were endless. You guys are probably sick of my memories by now, but I want to throw in one quick one before this video ends. I remember walking home from a friend's place one winter, and here in Iceland during the summer, the sun stays up for like the whole time. It's never dark out during the summer. But as soon as winter comes, the sun just disappears and it's dark out at like 5 p.m. Now I'm walking home at like 7 p.m. and it's pitch black outside, and I see like a white plastic grocery bag in a tree, and I have never run that fast since. The adrenaline rush was so big that when I got home, I immediately crashed and fell asleep. And the day after, I just kept telling my friends that I saw Slender Man in real life and shit, knowing damn well that I didn't. What a lying sack of shit I was. Anyway, that's the first episode of Childhood Traumas, or whatever I'm gonna name this series. I really hope you guys enjoyed this first video. I really haven't made any videos that require this much effort in such a long time, and it feels amazing to finally get one out there for people to watch. I'm really sorry. I know you see me like reading the script, but there's no fucking way I could do this with just bullet points. I'm not that entertaining. Again, if you know what those stories that I forgot about are called, just remember them too. Don't be afraid to comment. And if you're new, hit that subscribe button. And with all that being said, I love you.